In January 1991, Somalia's police vanished, its courts shut down, its army dissolved. For over 30 years, no stable government has held this country together. And yet, millions of Somalis didn't just survive. They built systems of law, commerce, and finance that moved billions without a single functioning bank. The question isn't why Somalia collapsed, it's what replaced the state when it did. On January 27, 1991, fighters from the United Somali Congress swept into Mogadishu and seized Villa Somalia, the presidential palace. President Mohamed Siad Barre fled the capital in a tank, reportedly carrying the remaining gold and foreign currency reserves of the central bank. Within 72 hours, the entire architecture of the state evaporated. Former soldiers abandoned their barracks, police stations stood empty, and the judicial system ceased to exist. On Sinai Road and across the capital, the streets filled with debris and civilian bodies, while the national police force dissolved into the chaos. With the fall of Barre, the center of power vanished entirely. Every formal institution that had provided a national spine disappeared overnight. Somalia was suddenly a country without public registries, municipal utilities, or formal courts of law. The central bank ceased operations, leaving the population with no monetary authority or financial system. This sudden, absolute collapse became the starting point for one of the longest state failures in modern history. The national structure was gone, but the population remained, left to discover how a society functions and survives when the state completely disappears. For ordinary Somalis, the sudden absence of a state was not a policy debate, it was a physical barrier that altered the mechanics of daily survival. When the ministries and archives were looted, the administrative record of the country turned to ash. Property deeds, birth certificates, and academic degrees ceased to exist, erasing the formal identities of millions. With no police officers on patrol and no judges to hear complaints, the basic guarantee of personal safety dissolved. Neighborhoods became islands of vulnerability, where a walk to find clean water or bread meant facing a gauntlet of unpredictable checkpoints. Armed factions, often divided along sub-clan lines, quickly moved into the vacuum, carving Mogadishu and surrounding agricultural zones into competitive fiefdoms. Heavy weapons, once locked in state armories, were mounted onto civilian trucks, transforming ordinary streets into active front lines. For families caught in the crossfire, survival required immediate flight. By the end of 1991, over 500,000 people had abandoned their homes, carrying whatever possessions they could manage toward makeshift camps or international borders. In this environment, trust contracted to the absolute immediate circle. Without a common currency issuer, a legal system to enforce contracts, or public utilities to keep municipal water pumps running, every transaction became a negotiation under pressure. The complete lack of public authority presented a brutal, daily question. How do you secure food, shelter, and the lives of your children when the rules of society have been completely erased? When the formal state dissolved, Somalis fell back on an ancient, unwritten operating system: the clan. Far more than a family tree, the clan structure serves as a practical safety net, determining who gets protection, who gets a job, and who can access water. At the heart of the system is x'ir, a customary legal code passed down orally through generations. Instead of police and statutory courts, communities rely on clan elders to mediate conflicts. When a dispute arises, whether over land or livestock, elders gather to negotiate settlements. Justice here focuses on restitution rather than punishment. Damages are paid through diya, blood money compensation typically calculated in camels or cash. The senior councils, or gurti, act as local assemblies, writing local rules and maintaining the peace. Yet this traditional structure is not perfect. It is strictly patriarchal, often shutting women out of decision-making, and can favor dominant lineages over minority groups. But in a land without a government, it remains the primary mechanism that keeps total anarchy at bay. The collapse of the state did not freeze commercial life. Instead, an active, unregulated market formed directly in the ruins. Without central ministries to grant licenses or collect customs duties, private merchants and entrepreneurs built their own substitute infrastructure. Two sectors drove this growth: telecommunications and transport. In 1991, Dalo Airlines began operations, launching commercial flights to connect the country with the outside world. By 2002, Hormuz Telecom had formed, eventually employing over 35,000 people and creating a massive cashless mobile network. Private port operators and logistics firms took over shipping hubs, moving goods across active trade corridors without state regulation. The result is a fragile, uneven economic environment where trade survives, but safety belongs only to those who can pay for it. To move money across borders and conflict zones, Somalis created xawilaad, an informal remittance network operating without central state regulation or formal banks. Today, this system funnels over $2 billion annually into the local economy, representing nearly a quarter of the country's gross domestic product. It serves as the primary financial lifeline, allowing members of the diaspora in Minneapolis or London to instantly fund food, education, and business ventures back home. The mechanics are simple. A sender hands cash to an agent abroad, who instantly messages a counterpart in Somalia to release the equivalent funds. Large money transfer firms like Quran Express and Dahabshil, led by Chief Executive Abdurrashid Douale, grew from these grassroots operations to process over $1 billion a year. In a land with no public registries or commercial courts, paper contracts are useless. Instead, absolute trust and clan reputation serve as the only collateral, keeping money flowing through the most remote market stalls. This financial lifeline fueled a quiet, fragmented resurrection within the capital. Mogadishu rebuilt in isolated pockets. Along the coast, Aden Ade International Airport reopened for commercial flights, welcoming diaspora entrepreneurs who built the 70-room Jazeera Palace Hotel. In the Hamar Jajab district, new restaurants and cafes cater to a rising, modest middle class, while port-linked merchants expand cargo terminals to handle increased trade. Yet this urban normality remains fragile. Between these islands of modern business, diesel generators hum to replace a non-existent power grid, revealing a recovery that is determined, uneven, and unfinished. Outside the capital, authority fragments into a gauntlet of competitive checkpoints. Al-Shabaab controls major southern towns like Jalib, running a parallel administration that extracts an estimated $2 million per month in highway taxes. For a merchant hauling goods, a single trip becomes a complex series of financial transactions. A driver pays $30 at a federal post, $200 at an Al-Shabaab roadblock to avoid cargo seizure, and $50 to a local clan militia. African Union peacekeepers secure main nodes, but their presence adds another barrier to pass, rather than clearing the path. Daily survival relies on constant negotiation, where safety is purchased mile by mile from shifting armed actors. On May 18, 1991, while the South descended into factional warfare, clan elders and former guerrilla fighters gathered in the northern city of Burao. They declared the independence of Somaliland, reclaiming the borders of the former British protectorate. Operating without international recognition, northern communities built functional ministries from scratch. They integrated their traditional council of elders, the Gurti, directly into a bicameral parliament alongside an elected legislature. This hybrid system established a domestic currency, the Somaliland shilling, and secured relative stability, demonstrating how institutional order can grow directly from local legitimacy. Today, Somalia challenges our basic definition of a nation. It proves that while institutions crumble, human trust and community endure. The ultimate question is no longer how a society survives without a state, but what actually holds us together when everything else falls apart. Share your thoughts below.